It's fine.
Meals. And then planning ahead is so key. A lot of times we forget about that little step. And so, how do we plan ahead and anticipate that we're going to be hungry and plan ahead for that and what to do if you happen to not plan? And then I always like the practical tips. You know about me of giving you options and ideas. And so I'm going to give you some different snack ideas to suit whatever craving you have, whether you like salty or sweet or a combination of all those. And then also there's some snack tips to finish us off. So lots of there that we're going to be covering. Um, so let's go ahead and dig into the first step of really just explaining snacks and the benefits of them. So the snacks actually have been considered, this isn't just my name for it, it has been considered the fourth meal, if you will, because it's so common and so popular now. And I don't know, I feel like it's been a gradual increase over the years, but ever since like the early 1900s, I feel like it's slowly become more of a common thing to have snacks. And actually, 95% of Americans have snacks. I'd love to show of hands if any of you are in that 95% that have snacks during the day. Yay! I can't see, I don't know if I can see everybody here, but the people that I saw raised their hands. So I'm assuming most of you did. So yeah, snacks can be a good thing, actually. A lot of times, sometimes we think, oh, well, we shouldn't be snacking because it does, like I said, account, or what it shows here, accounts for 500 calories of our daily calorie intake. And so you might think that's a lot. Like I should avoid the snacks in order to save those calories and not snack and just have my meals. But it's really a matter of more than that, of what you choose to eat and why you're snacking matters, not so much of um, how many calories it is or if you should or shouldn't. It's really about why you're snacking, such as, are your snacks nourishing? So again, are you getting satisfied from them? And then why are you eating? We'll go into this of, are you actually physically hungry, or are you eating outside of that physical hunger for another reason? And maybe, are you grazing throughout the kitchen? So how are you eating your snacks? Are you standing up and just kind of mindlessly eating them? Those are all things that we're going to touch on. So the benefits, there's a few different benefits that we're going to go over. The first one is that it prevents overeating. So like I said, 500 calories, man, that's a lot. But what if we don't have those snacks? We might be ending up eating more than that at our meals because we're so hungry. And you might be at the point where you're like, actually, I feel pretty satisfied between my meals and I don't need a snack. And that can be okay too. Uh, if you're like, my metabolism is a little bit slower and I'm really not feeling hungry between those meals, uh, that's okay. The snack is meant to be a bridge or a mini meal. So it's there to be a way of like a crutch almost, to be able to help you get to that next meal. If you weren't able to get to that meal without feeling ravenous, then that snack is definitely needed. But it prevents overeating later on. And then it also doesn't necessarily have to fill you up. So a lot of times we think snacks, you might overeat on them, but it's really meant to be, again, that bridge. So you don't necessarily have to eat until you're fully satisfied. It's just meant to be enough to get you to that next meal. And I'll show you on this next slide and we'll explain it a little bit more. So here is, I like to call a hunger scale, and all of my clients see this. So it's 1 through 10, really simple scale. But if you are at a 1 or a 2, you're probably pretty hungry, and it's more likely that you're going to overeat than at your next meal. And so a snack is help you when you're at a 3, like when you're okay, I'm comfortably hungry. That's when a snack or a meal is necessary. For a meal, you might eat until you're at a 7 when you're satisfied. But for a snack, you might only have to eat until you're at a 4 or a 5, because you know that a meal will be coming soon. And so that's where a snack can be that bridge. And it is recommended to eat at least every 4 hours if you're hungry. So the key thing is there, if you're hungry. But most of the time, if you're not overeating at meals, you're going to be hungry again in about 3 to 4 hours. Some might be 5 hours. And so that's a good rule of thumb. If you're not really hungry by the time 4 hours comes along, maybe it's a sign like, well, maybe I'm overeating at my previous meal. And so often, I don't know if you experience this too, but we eat based on external food rules, and you might not even know it, but when you take a time to think about it, like, oh, I eat at a certain time of day, like, oh, it's noon, I need to be eating, or it's 5 o'clock, I should be eating, or a recommended serving size of, oh, the bag says I need to have 23 chips or whatever. That's how much I should have, or whatever it is. I'm eating based on that rather than listening to, I'm hungry and it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and eat today at this time. Or actually, I'm not that hungry. I don't need these 23 chips. I only maybe need 10 of them today. So, anyway, that's listening more of being that. To prevent overeating, we really want to be focused more internally rather than just externally all the time. So that was one benefit, is to reduce the overeating, because if we overeat, weight gain or just not feeling as good can come about from that. The second benefit is that it keeps our blood sugar levels steady. And that's really important. Because if we're not eating for long periods of time, that causes dips in our blood sugar. So that can make a low. And just as we always hear, oh, we don't want high blood sugar, well, we also don't want low blood sugar. One that causes more irritability, which nobody likes to be irritable, especially the person has to be with you all the time. But one, it also increases your risk for more serious things like insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure. So having the dips, like the low and the high, just makes those disease states more likely to happen. And so that's where those snacks can help maintain that constant blood glucose, or that blood sugar level. So that was to prevent overeating, helps steady your blood sugar, and then it also thirdly provides nutrients. So a lot of times in our meals, we might not actually get all the nutrients that we need. And so a snack is kind of like it covers up, or kind of fulfills everything that we would otherwise be missing out on if we didn't have those snacks. So it can fill in those nutrient gaps that we wouldn't otherwise get. And that's why we want those nourishing snacks, because it helps meet those requirements. If we were to have Snickers or cookies or whatever for snacks, that can be fine on occasion, but it's not helping us meet our needs. And a lot of times we're not getting everything that we need just from meals alone. So something that you could kind of just ask yourself is, what are some foods that I might not be getting in my meals? What am I missing? Maybe it's dairy. Maybe you don't typically have milk or cheese or yogurt with your meal, or maybe it's vegetables, or maybe I don't really have fruit with my meals. That would be a perfect time then to prioritize those in your snacks. And that just like a quick assessment of, okay, I should then, if I'm using snacks as a way to meet my nutrient needs, then I can maybe find ways to include that in my snack, the foods that I don't get during my meals. And I'll touch on that too, of giving you more ideas, but just kind of everybody's different on what their needs are for snacks. It might be having fruit, or it might be having maybe some more dairy in terms of having some yogurt with some fruit added or something like that. So that's what snacks are also really good benefit for, is to provide those nutrients. So the second thing we're going to cover is how to be an intuitive snacker, or how to be a smart snacker. And this ties in some intuitive eating principles. And so I'm just going to cover a few, but I think they're really important just to kind of figure out why I'm snacking and how to snack in a better way before we get to a lot of the examples of other snack ideas. So to be an intuitive snacker, we want to feel our fullness. And what that means is listening to your body to know when to stop eating. And this is like game changer, right? Everybody's like, yeah, that would be great to know when to stop eating, because then life would be great and I'd have everything figured out. But in order to do that, it's noticing when you're comfortably satisfied and no longer enjoying the food as much. And so in order to help do that, is to really be that intuitive snacker and be mindful while eating it. And I know I've talked a lot about that even in the last presentation, about being mindful and enjoying the food. But it may look like just taking a time out mid-snack. So while maybe you're having yogurt with some fruit, maybe halfway through, or if you're having an apple with nuts or something like that, you might have half of the apple and then you reassess of, okay, where am I at on the hunger scale? Am I still enjoying this as much? Is this satisfying me? Or am I actually, maybe I am at a 5 or a 6 or a 7 on the hunger scale and I'm okay. And that will satisfy me enough to get me through to my next meal. And thinking of it more as that, knowing that you can have it again later, but right now you wouldn't get as much enjoyment from it. So then again, that's not commitment to end eating, but just to reevaluate. And that's a way of, if we're mindlessly eating, then obviously it's going to be a lot harder to do that. But when we're mindfully enjoying it, it's easier to do a pause and think, okay, I want to stop when I'm satisfied. So I'm going to reevaluate now of how hungry am I? How satisfied am I? Which brings me to my next point of, you also want to discover the satisfaction factor, which means you eat what sounds good to you and you enjoy it with an inviting environment with few distractions. And then you notice how much less food you need to become satisfied. And that's the difference between mindlessly eating and mindfully eating. So how often have you eaten popcorn while watching a movie and all of a sudden you look down and you're like, wait a second, where did all this popcorn go? It couldn't have been me. I couldn't have eaten that. But in reality, you're like, it's just all of a sudden you realize I ate all that popcorn and I had no idea that it was almost gone. I've been there. So I will fully admit that it's easy to like be so engrossed in something else, or if you're munching on M&Ms while reading or doing something and you all of a sudden look down, you're like, well, shoot, now it's gone. And I need some more because I wasn't even aware that it was gone. That's the opposite of kind of finding that satisfaction factor. We're mindlessly eating, we're more distracted and we don't really enjoy it as much. And so going back to the previous slide, you're less likely to be aware when you're actually satisfied and have no longer finding enjoyment from it. So on that end, it's better to be able to, when you've committed to having a snack, you're like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm going to have a snack, eliminating those distractions as much as possible. So turning off the TV, not reading or working or you're on your computer or on your phone, and really designated time to just focus on that snack and enjoy it. I know it's not always fun. Like I get it. I like to be on my phone and I'll snack. And maybe that's something that you still want to do, but also being more mindful of how much you're eating and if you're still getting enjoyment from it. And so to go along with that, things that can help you be more mindful and feel satisfied. Some of these things I already touched on, but one, choosing foods that sound good. So there's a side of that too, of if you say, okay, I have to eat celery and you hate celery, then and you'd rather have maybe even an apple or something like that, obviously then you're not going to be as satisfied because you really just want the apple. Same thing, have you ever like, you really want some chocolate, but you think, no, I'm going to have an apple. And then you go and you're like, oh, I'll have some crackers. And then finally you go and have the chocolate anyway, because that's actually what you really wanted. I have also been there. And so that happens when we're not actually giving ourselves that permission to enjoy what we actually want to be enjoying. And who knows, you could have the chocolate maybe with an apple or something like that. So you're not just filling up on the chocolate, but you want to find foods that sound good and give yourself that permission to eat them rather than finding something else and then still going back to it. And then secondly, eating when you're gently hungry. So again, it goes into, you don't want to eat when you're at a 1 or a 2. We want to eat before then, but we also don't want to be grazing. Because when we're grazing, we're mindlessly eating and we don't actually know how much we're eating at that point. So I know a lot of studies have been done of if you can actually make an eating occasion where you sit down, you remember that eating occasion a lot more and you're less likely to to continue eating because you've actually spent that time. Your brain registers it as like, okay, I ate, now I'm good, I can move on, rather than constantly eating. So this may be something really good for Christmas, because I've talked with a lot of my clients. And of course, at Christmas, there's always lots of food around if you're doing anything for Christmas this year. And it's easy to graze. And so that's a challenge maybe for you to try to do during like the holiday season, of when there's a food around, giving yourself permission to have it, but you want to sit down and eat it and enjoy it, rather than nibbling throughout, kind of like a mouse and nibble throughout the day. We want to make sure that we're sitting down and really being mindful while enjoying it. So sit down, savor it, eat slowly, and then eat in a pleasant environment. So eating away from a desk, or eating at a clean table, putting things on a plate versus a takeout container. So all those things can really enhance how much that you get out of the snack and feel more satisfied sooner. So I have there, let's practice being mindful. Of course, it's hard to do right now over Zoom, but I would love for you, the next time you have your snack, so if you have a snack in the afternoon, or next time you eat, maybe if it's dinner or whatever, to practice all of these things and notice how much sooner you're satisfied, or if you enjoy it more. So being able to sit down, not have distractions, savor it, eat it slowly, see how that changes your experience. And feel free to email me too. I would love to hear how that went for you and your experience. So that will be a homework assignment for you. We won't do it together right now. So that's a dissatisfaction factor. And another piece of that is, I've shown this law of diminishing enjoyment before. For those of you that aren't aware, you get less and less enjoyment with each bite you take. So there's a sensory specific satiety, and that means that the pleasantness of the food that you eat decreases actually after 2 minutes. So after just 2 minutes of eating, you're getting less enjoyment and less satisfaction from that food. And so it's just being aware of that. I'm not saying that you have to eat everything in 2 minutes or be done after 2 minutes of eating, but being aware of, I'm not going to enjoy this as much, so I want to make sure that I stop when I'm actually not finding enjoyment from this anymore. And that's looking more internally, obviously, than those external food rules of, oh, I need to eat because this is a serving size, or I need to eat this amount. So another thing, this is the last thing about how to be like an intuitive eater, is try not to cope with food. So often with snacks or any time that we're eating during the day besides at meals, it can be because we're stressed or boredom. I know right now, like being at home all the time, you're around the kitchen all the time, you might not have as many activities going on. You're just kind of bored or want to do something like with your hands or with your mouth, and that's totally reasonable. But that's where we start to use food as a way to just like, oh, I'll go in the kitchen and I'll find something to eat. Like, I think I'm kind of hungry right now. And just knowing that food can only solve that physical hunger, not that emotional hunger or that boredom or the stress that might come around this time of year, or the anxiety. We want to look for ways to find comfort and distractions without using food. And so that's another topic that we probably won't get into right now, but maybe if that's something that you struggle with, of the boredom eating or the stress eating, of kind of ask yourself, what else can I do besides food? Maybe it's taking some deep breaths, or going around, kind of walking up and down the stairs in your house or apartment or something like that. But realizing like, okay, why am I eating right now, is just as important as what you actually decide to eat. So again, sometimes I ask myself, or have people ask, like, am I hungry enough for an apple? Because if you're not hungry enough for an apple, you might not actually be truly hungry. It might be some kind of emotional hunger going on. Not saying you have to eat an apple if you're actually hungry, but it's a good way of like distinguishing between the two. And you could ask yourself, like, what do I need right now? Is it sleep? Is it help? Is it, I don't know, something to do with my hands? Those are all things to ask yourself. And feel free to put in the comments. I do have a question here of, have you ever eaten a snack out of stress or boredom? And how did you feel afterwards? I don't expect you to share right now, but if you feel like you want to share of like, yeah, that's happened to me before. And then how do you feel? A lot of times it can help in the moment. Yes, it's a distraction, right? So that boredom is gone for that moment, or the stress may be gone for that moment. But long term, once you get done eating, it's still there, because the food can actually solve that problem. So it only kind of uh, distracts you from it for a little bit. But feel free to comment if you've ever eaten out of stress or boredom. Again, I feel like I've done that before. So uh, it's definitely a common thing that can happen. It's more just being aware of it, and asking yourself, okay, why am I eating right now? All right, so let's go into how to choose those satisfying snacks. So now we know why snacks are beneficial, what, how to be that intuitive snacker. So eating when we kind of make the most of it, but then also what should we even choose? So we found out how and why, but now what should we be choosing? So one, it prevents that afternoon slump. And we want to really, I think a lot of times people make snacks too complicated of like, okay, I need to find these new snack options. But really we can try to find foods that don't contain a label at all. So foods that have been around forever, of fruits and vegetables, eggs are great. So we'll get into more examples soon enough. But just to give you an idea of, it doesn't have to be new and different. It can definitely be something that we've already heard of and know about. There's also a difference between snacks and desserts. It sounds like, well, duh, Kara. Yeah, there's a difference. But oftentimes we take dessert and insert it as a snack. So we might have, okay, the cookie or the Snickers bar or whatever, the M&Ms, the chocolate, we're going to have that as a snack. And that's totally fine. But it also, if snacks are a bridge to our next meal or providing us with nutrients, that dessert sweet food can't do that. And it's not something that we should be relying on all the time. So a dessert is really like once in a while, a special treat, something to maybe after a meal or something. But I don't want it to become a regular occurrence where a snack is something that you eat every day. It's kind of like a normal thing that you eat on a regular, consistent basis. When we insert the dessert as a snack, that's when it becomes maybe not so beneficial. Once in a while is fine, but on a regular basis, we don't want to do that. And having that at like your 3 o'clock snack isn't going to give you the necessary fuel you need to keep going. It's more likely to think of the blood sugar, kind of spike your blood sugar, but then it'll go down pretty quickly and you're going to be feeling hungry sooner. Whereas if you had maybe cheese and crackers or something with some protein in there, you're more likely to feel satisfied for longer. So again, snacks are those mini meals. I would encourage having it balanced and then finding a couple food groups to increase that satisfaction. So maybe it is the apple and peanut butter or celery and peanut butter or cheese and crackers or yogurt and granola. And I'm going to give you, I have a snack handout. So feel free to email me or Elisa and I can send that to you. And I'm also going to be giving you a lot of examples here pretty soon. So those are just a few glimpses or like tidbits on things that you could do, but thinking of trying to include 2 food groups would be a great idea if you're hungry enough for that. So instead of having like an apple and a banana together, which maybe you wouldn't do normally, but I have seen people do that, rather than having that, you would choose maybe banana and peanut butter or apple and cheese to kind of add more texture, variety, and also more nutrients and increase your satisfaction. All right, and then volumetric eating. So finding more nutrient dense foods can increase the length of your satiety. So I'm going to give you some examples here, but you're satisfied sooner based on the choices you make, and you're also satisfied for longer. So even though all foods are allowed, no foods are off limits, you can be that smart snacker and find foods that are going to actually help build that bridge for like a really sturdy bridge and for longer. So I have some examples here and I know they're listed there as well, but visuals are always fun. So I don't know if I know my screen is really tiny right now. But this is like 1.5 tablespoons of M&Ms. It's like, it's not very much. If you can see that, it's pretty small amount. That's like a hand, like not even a handful. So if you had this, chances are you you wouldn't be satisfied, and you'd probably go for more if you were just having M&Ms for a snack or like kind of like a dessert. Um, so you would have this, but you're probably not satisfied. Whereas if you had a cup of grapes, or I don't have grapes with me right now, so I have pineapple. This is kind of, if you can kind of see it, a cup of pineapple. Between the two, technically they're the same amount of calories, but you're going to become a lot more satisfied with the pineapple than if you just had the M&Ms, and you'd probably likely go for more. On the flip side, you can have M&Ms, but maybe you could have a little bit and pair it with something else that would also satisfy you a little bit more, if that makes sense. But that's where everything's allowed, but also being smart about, oh, I think I could be just as satisfied with something sweet like pineapple, and I'd be satisfied a lot sooner. If you could if you had more of this, that'd be great. Like if you needed 2 cups, but by then I think you'd be feeling pretty full because there's so much fiber in there. Another idea is, so you could have 12 potato chips are a serving size of these. So that's pretty small amount too. It might be enough to satisfy you, or you might be like, I need some more, like they're salty, they're delicious, I need some more of those. Or like 3 cups of popcorn is again like the same amount of calories, but you're getting extra fiber and it's a whole grain. And so you're probably going to be satisfied more by having popcorn. Not saying you can't have the chips, but again, maybe if you wanted chips, you could pair it with, again, 2 food groups. So having some potato chips, maybe with an apple, just so that you could balance it out a little bit better. But you would be more satisfied with popcorn. So another option is, a lot of times I feel like people want to save their calories. And so, or they don't want to have snacks. They think, no, I shouldn't have snacks. I'm just going to have a hard candy or a mint. And then like a half hour, 15 minutes later, they're like, I'll have another one. And then 15 minutes later, they have, so by the time like the afternoon goes, they've had like, 10 mints or 5 mints or whatever it is, because they're trying not to eat anything, or they'll have coffee or Diet Coke or something like that. But you could have the 4 lifesavers or 4 mints or whatever. But you know what? For the same amount of calories, which I don't do a lot with calories, but you could have an apple. And so instead of just like pushing off your hunger, acknowledging like, I am hungry, I'm at a 3, I'm going to eat something, and I know an apple actually sounds pretty good. I'll get satisfied from this, rather than just continually trying to kind of stave off that hunger by having pure sugar in the form of lifesavers. So these are both like 60 to 70 calories. This is just sugar. This actually gives you some nutrients and a lot of good fiber. So I would feel a lot more satisfied and full from this rather than this, even though technically they're the same amount of calories. So that's an example of volumetric eating and how you can be smart with the snacks that you choose. So next I want to talk a little bit about planning ahead. So if you know kind of consistent basis that you're hungry in the afternoon, and then you know that you're going to be out and about, maybe running errands, it'd probably be a smart idea just to pack along something with you, knowing yourself and knowing, okay, I'm usually hungry around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I think my errand time is going to run into that. I'll just take along like a banana, or I'll take a little container of trail mix with me, or a granola bar, and just anticipating that you will be hungry. And you could even keep something in your bag, your purse, your car. Granted, I know a lot of us aren't traveling or going very many places right now, but I do find myself like when I'm running errands and kind of going to the grocery store, it might be a time frame when I am hungry when I'm going out, or maybe it's over lunch, or it kind of goes over into the lunch hour. It's good to have something with you. So I always have a granola bar in my bag. A lot of times my husband and I are going like running errands in the afternoon on the weekends. We'll pack along a little container of nuts or something that's portable. And we might not actually eat it, but we know that it's there. We're planning ahead knowing, okay, we might be hungry. So we're just going to pack something along so that we one, don't come back home ravenous, or two, be more likely to stop somewhere and grab something that maybe isn't as nutritious or something that would be as fulfilling for us. So just keep that in mind. It does take some foreplanning so that you're not caught hungry. And just remember too, if you don't have a snack, there's always like lots of other places to stop at. But it'd be better to stop and get something when you're at a 3 rather than at a 1 or a 2 when you're less likely to make healthier choices. In that, I think when you're at a 1 or a 2, you're just like, give me anything, I'll take it, it's fine. Whereas if you're a 3, you're mentally able to make some better choices because you're not quite at that level yet. So this is another idea that I wanted to share with you, is to create a snack choice list. And the snack handout that I have is essentially kind of a list for you, but some of them you might not be interested in. So it's better to you could take that list and make some of your own of things that you could have if you want to get out of a snack rut. Sometimes we kind of have the same things over and over again. And you can look at that and be like, oh, okay, I have some more ideas. And also, when you're kind of in that point where you just want to eat whatever, you could look at that snack list of, okay, no, I can have, gives you ideas when your mind is not working properly and you're so hungry. And it gives you like, oh yeah, I could have cottage cheese. That sounds really good right now, or whatever it is. It gives you that kind of your previous self. You can thank yourself for thinking of that in the time when you are too hungry to even think about something. So when you're caught hungry, choices at the convenience store or just things to pack along with you that would be helpful. If you are at a gas station or if you're traveling somewhere and you didn't pack things along, there are a lot of options, but there are a lot of not so great options along with the great options. And so that's where it's really important to, one, come to the convenience store before you're at a 1 or 2, and then pull out that list as well of like, okay, no, these are some good options that I can choose. So any kind of fruit, I have they also have like these, I'm just going from right to left on the screen. The hard-boiled eggs. I think I actually can use my mouse too. They have these things where you could have cheese and nuts and hard-boiled eggs. So it's a lot of protein, but it also has a lot of variety of textures to help satisfy you a little bit. And same with these Sargento balanced breaks. Those are great to just pack along. You do have to refrigerate them, so it wouldn't be something that you could store in your bag long term, but they have cheese and nuts and dried fruit. So it does give you a little bit more variety of considering like food groups. So those are great. You could also do granola bars. These are just a couple options, the kind, Lara bars, RX bars. I do have a recommendation. Sometimes granola bars can have like a health halo where you think, oh, granola bar equals healthy, but that's always not the case. So same with like granola, there can be a lot of sugar added into those granola bars. And so sometimes it's just like a candy bar covered up as something that's healthy. So my recommendation is finding one that is less than 6 grams of sugar and at least like 2 grams, 3 grams of fiber is my recommendation. And there are ones out there, all the Lara bars meet that. And same with the kind bars. There's ones that say like 5 grams of added sugar. And I would say like 6 grams of added sugar. So there's ones that have sugar naturally found in them, like the Lara bars have dates in them, and that's a natural sugar. But I'm talking more about limiting the added sugar that you have. So finding ones that are less than 6 grams of sugar, added sugar, and at least 2 to 3, preferably 3 grams of fiber would be a good rule of thumb that's for granola bars, even for cereal, any kind of grain like that. That's a good thing to go by. And then when you're at a convenience store, of course, there's always peanuts or nuts. So that would be a good option as well. It gives you some good protein. So I said to make it a mini meal, and that's where it says at least 2 food groups. One other thing that you could add in there is finding some protein. So kind of leaning towards the side of including a protein in that food group. So I say 2 food groups, it could be a protein with a fruit, a protein with grain, but trying to get a little bit of protein in there if possible, because it just is going to improve your your appetite control, your satiety. A lot of studies have found that, actually they found like healthy women that ate, this was a study that ate 14 grams of protein from yogurt, actually experienced like improved the appetite control, but satiety, and then also reduced food intake later. And so aiming for that like 10 to 15 grams of protein for a snack is a pretty good rule of thumb. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way every time, but just most foods, if you're having like as a like yogurt, usually has 15 grams of protein. Peanut butter, usually if you're getting a serving size, may have like 7 to 8. So a lot of these will have a good amount of protein in that, like that amount of protein in them, if you were having a protein source. And then for meals, 30 grams of protein is recommended. I wouldn't recommend going over that. That's not really necessary. And so just so you don't think like, oh, the more protein, the better. We don't need an excess amount of protein. Our body can't utilize that efficiently or really put it to use. And so it can only take so much at a time. So 30 grams for a meal would be beneficial. So this is a list of some snack ideas, and that's a combination, right? So apples and peanut butter, crackers and cheese, deli meat and cheese. That'd be 2 protein sources, but it also has some dairy in there. Cottage cheese and fruit. I won't go through all the, like tuna packet is actually a really good snack option. I know a lot of times we don't really think about that, but hey, we're at home, nobody's around us. If our breath smells, it doesn't matter, right? Because nobody can smell it. But that's a really great option. Tuna with Triscuits. The tuna packets make it really easy and convenient. So all of these, like tortilla, peanut butter, and bananas, that's a larger snack if you're kind of feeling a little bit more hungry. All those are great options. All right, so I'd also want to go into, just depending on what your craving is, I wanted to cover a little bit of options for you. So if you are craving crunchy, a lot of options out there besides just crackers or chips. There's cucumbers, jicama, if you're familiar or maybe not familiar with that. That's a Mexican potato. And that one it's really good. And especially like, I like to dip it still with like into hummus, or you could do it with ranch, but it's really high in fiber, really low. It's a high water content. So it's actually not a lot of calories in it, but it's similar to an apple, but just not as sweet. I mean, it's not a fruit, it's a vegetable, and it's still kind of like a potato, but you peel around the outside, there's usually a wax on it, and you peel that all off. So you wouldn't eat this outer part, you would just eat the inner side, and it's just very satisfying crunch to it. So you could salt it. I know in Mexico, they put lime juice and maybe like chili pepper or chili powder and some salt on it. So that would give it some flavor. You can eat it raw, but you can roast it if you want, but raw would be a great way to have it. So that's an option for you. Other crunchy things are apples. Roasted edamame is a great option. This is it's a really great source of protein because it's a young soybean. You could also do roasted chickpeas. So that's another great option. Again, a great source of protein. Pickles can give you that crunch. Kale chips are another option. Seaweed snacks, I know you're like, ooh, I don't know, but they're really popular and people really love them. So that might be something to explore if you're adventurous. So these are all some crunchy options that would be healthier, but also you could, I mean, maybe you're like, nope, crunchy, I need to have potato chips, and that's totally fine. But these are some options for you that maybe you'll find just as much satisfaction from them as your potato chips too. All right, so salty. I know there's like the crowd that loves salty, the crowd that loves sweet. So some salty options, you could do lightly salted nuts. You could do popcorn, even like from the bag, or make your own. Whole grain crackers. So a lot of crackers are going to be a little bit saltier. Triscuits are a great brand because it is just your wheat, salt, and oil. Again, roasted edamame. They're salty, roasted or flavored pumpkin seeds. So this one is an example of a brand, but there's so many different brands out there of pumpkin seeds. This one's sea salt, but they also have so many different varieties of flavors. So it just makes it different and exciting to just have something a little bit different flavored, but still have that salty flavor, but it's not just salt that you're having. You could do a hard boiled egg with a little bit of dash of salt on it. You could do cheese wedges or cheese sticks. I will say if you have a more strongly flavored cheese, say like sharp cheddar, or if you like blue cheese, goat cheese or something like that, those are really strong in flavor. So you're satisfied sooner. You don't need as much of those to kind of feel more satisfied from it. It has a more pungent flavor to it. Same with like dark chocolate versus milk chocolate, for instance. Pretzels, and then again, tuna, that's another saltier option for you. So in terms of something sweet, I'm on that side. I'm usually a sweet lover, or sweet and salty, I guess. I like the combination as well. But a Lara bar or those naturally sweetened granola bars are good options. Smoothies. So if you're wanting to make your own smoothie, those are always great, but make sure that you are maybe instead of having it juice based, you could add milk to it or yogurt, and that would give you some dairy rather than adding more sugar to it. Plain yogurt and fruit is a great option to get some of that sweetness. Any kind of fruit, obviously, is going to be sweet. And I really like dried fruit as well. I know it's higher in sugar because it's dry. There's no water content. So you're getting like more, you don't have as large of serving, I guess. But like figs have been really good. I've been really enjoying, like, for instance, when I have a snack, I'll have a fig, but I also want to pair it with something else. So I'll have maybe some Triscuits with it or some pretzels. And that's just really satisfying for me. But I really love that, or apricots that I have here. Freeze dried. So like these strawberry slices that are freeze dried, those are really, some people really like that. And also provide some crunch as well. They're not soft and chewy, they're kind of crunchy. You could also do peanut butter with dark chocolate chips or dates. That's kind of like a sweet thing. Cocoa dusted almonds. So instead of having chocolate dipped almonds, which is quite a bit of chocolate, you can just have the cocoa dusted ones. And that is a good way to get kind of that sweetness, but still get the benefit of those almonds in there too. And then if you like Fig Newtons, these Nature Bakery, I don't know if you've had these before. Those are really good. They still are a little bit higher on the added sugar, but they are whole grain and just can be really satisfying too during the afternoon or morning when you need something. Could be like a breakfast option. But they're still kind of like a cookie, but they have actual dried fruit in them and then a whole grain, and they're very good. So those are some sweet options. And then for you that you want both together, the sweet and salty, there's a few options there too that I thought of. So trail mix for one is great. I would recommend finding ones that maybe don't have the dry, like the cranberries that have added sugar in them. Looking more for ones that have raisins or dried fruit that doesn't have the added sugar, and maybe ones that don't have as much chocolate in them, kind of finding a balance between the two. You could always make your own trail mix as well. So that maybe sometimes actually what I'll do if I want some chocolate in my trail mix, which is totally fine, I'll add some extra almonds, or like I'll add a little bit to it so that it makes the ratio a little bit more on the nut and seed side rather than just on the dried fruit or chocolate side, if that makes sense. Again, granola bar can have both sweet and salty, apple and cheese, cottage cheese and fruit, deli meat and fruit. So finding that's where you naturally will probably get that balance between sweet and salty by just combining two food groups together. All right, so those were some options. Again, I do have a handout on combinations of snacks. So ones that contain two different food groups together. If you want that, I have my email address at the end. So write that down or just email Lisa. I will send that out to those that are interested in having it for sure. But some snack tips. So making it a priority. This is just some like quick go-to things. So even when you're on the go, plan a time to have it. So again, pack it along. And I know it's not as easy to be mindful if you're like on the go and you have it, but I think it's better to have a snack and eat it even when you're on the go rather than not having a snack at all and coming home feeling ravenous and then just kind of raiding the kitchen. That's the better of the two, is to still just be able to have something with you, even if you can't be as mindful while eating it. The next one, though, is if you can, to sit down and really enjoy it. So instead of the grazing, instead of when you're at the holiday party, or I guess we're not really having a lot of parties right now, but next time you're at like your Christmas gathering, to really making it like, even if everybody else is standing up grazing, when you decide that you're like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat, to get a plate, put food on it that you think will be a reasonable amount for you, and then go sit down and really be able to focus on the meal and enjoy it. Because remember, your brain is going to remember it more if you're sitting down to eat it rather than standing up and kind of grazing and grabbing little things. And treat it like a meal, I guess, to make it more memorable. All right, and so then the next one is to avoid those mindless munchies. I think I kind of already alluded to this and have talked about this, but setting that schedule, making it a plan to have those structured snacks. So our body really likes to have consistency. And so you're likely going to have a snack on a regular basis if you are eating kind of like a structured breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're feeling like you're hungry in between those at maybe lunch, maybe in the afternoon or the morning. Having it like a consistent thing, then if you're consistently finding that you're hungry, making it more just a part of your day, where you're like, okay, snack, I'm going to allow myself to have a snack every afternoon because I'm usually feeling pretty hungry at that time. Another thing is to use containers to portion control. So yes, that could be a sign of like external food like food rule, because you're like, okay, I have this amount of portion, but it's also a way to be more mindful of, one, it helps to transport things more easily, and it helps prevent eating from the bag and being mindlessly eating it. But then also it gives you that built-in pause. So if you ate a little bit from that container, you could then ask yourself, okay, where am I at on the hunger scale? Am I satisfied? Am I good to go? Or do I need to have a little bit more? So these containers here are really nice. You could do little snack baggies, anything that kind of helps you prevent you from having the popcorn in a smaller bowl rather than a big bowl. So you don't look down and you're like, wait a second, where did it go? Then you know a little bit of portioning out things beforehand. And then this is just lastly some ideas to help with like swaps to increase the nutrition in your meals or in your snacks. And so instead, like if you were having coffee, I guess, no creamer, half and half, trying that instead of adding just the creamer to your coffee. Or if you use a peanut butter spread for your apple, trying to use like unsweetened and natural peanut butter, using the plain yogurt instead of fruit flavored yogurt, trying dark chocolate because it is more satisfying. It's not something that you're going to be eating as much of usually. Having the whole grain crackers, choosing fresh fruit over maybe like fruit snacks. Fruit cups are okay as long as they don't have they're not in the syrup. So that could be an okay option too. Whole grain muffin versus maybe a cupcake or a pastry, or choosing like a different granola bar. So all of those are different like easy swaps. If you're currently doing something and you want to take it to the next level, that would be maybe something to try. And again, I always say this in every presentation of, there's a lot of ideas here. And so they're just that, they're just ideas, but I'd love for you just to take one or two of those and apply those rather than thinking, I need to do all of this and I need to totally change everything. Just choosing one or two that really like hit you and you're like, oh yeah, I should do that. Use that one and then kind of wait on the other ones until you're ready, or just kind of forget about them for that's fine too, as long as you grab one or two main things that you're like, that's what I want to focus on. All right, so recap. Are you ready this is a great thing. Like snacks are something that are for everything, but everything that I talked about can also be used for the holidays or in for meals too. So anything that I talk about can be carried over to other areas of your eating. But for one, snacks do help us meet our nutrient needs and prevent us from overeating. So again, it's important to find snacks that are satisfying and nourishing in order to do that for us. Snacks are mini meals rather than a dessert. So not inserting the dessert into the snack. It's really meant to be a meal because it has those food groups, but it's just mini. It's just something smaller. So like the Triscuits and the tuna, you might think like, well, tuna, that's for lunch or that's for a meal, but really it's a mini meal, right? So it can be totally used for a snack. Enjoy those snacks with few distractions when you're physically hungry, not emotionally hungry, not when you're bored or stressed. Really asking yourself, why am I eating this right now? And do I need this right now? And then planning for those snacks in advance to prepare for that hunger. You know that you're usually hungry in the afternoon. So it's not going to go away just because you're not at home. You're still going to feel hungry. So it'd be better just to plan ahead and have something with you to anticipate that hunger. So that is the end. So this is just thank you for listening. And I know it's the holiday week, and so I'm sure you have maybe things going on. So I just appreciate you listening, and it's fun to see your faces now that I've seen many of them. But yeah, my email is there. So it's Kara@KaraHairNutrition.com. Feel free to email me with if I forget what if you want the snack handout, but then also if you're mindful, like that activity of really focusing on the food that you're eating for your snack or for your meal, feel free to email me and let me know like, hey, this is how it went. I'm always happy to just hear if you tried that out and you enjoyed it. And then also, if you have presentation ideas, I think I actually have, thanks for all the people that put in like requests to me. I think I actually have a lot of ideas for the 2021, but if you have more ideas, I'm happy to hear them. And so I think the February one that I'm going to be talking about is on gluten-free eating. Is the first one I'm going to talk about. Just people like to know if I should be gluten-free, what's the benefit of it? And then how to, like, maybe even if you aren't gluten-free, but you have friends that are, how do I bake and cook for gluten-free eating? Because that can kind of be confusing and just, it's not something that's in your game plan. So you don't typically do that. And so it might be something strange. So it's not just for people that are gluten-free. It's more of just, what is it? How do I learn more about it? And how do I feel more comfortable around it? And so that's, I think, tentatively what I'm planning on for February. With that, feel free. I'm going to end my show. So I'm going to stop sharing as long as you have everything. And feel free to, if you have questions, I see there's one chat. Thanks for Lisa. So she said it makes you feel guilty or you don't really enjoy it. And that is when you overeat, I think is what I had asked possibly at that point. No, I can't remember.
Like, I think it was something about eating the snack. I don't even remember.
Oh, when you're mindlessly
not really hungry or something, maybe.
Yeah. Or when you're bored and you're eating or something like that. Yes, perfect. So feel free, if any of you have any questions or comments, love to hear them. If you do, if not, that's totally fine too.
Kara, I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Snacking. So when you're trying to lose weight, how do you feel about 2 snacks a day? So like honor your hunger, but say in the morning you eat really early and then by mid-morning you're starving. Same thing, you have a lunch, but by mid-afternoon, late afternoon, you're starving again. What's your advice on that?
Perfect question. So I think you're right on the head there. I'm starving. So therefore it is like, okay, I'm at a 3 or lower. So that's my body telling me that I need to be eating something. And like you said, like, okay, but is that going to cause weight gain? It's extra food that I'm eating. Should I be eating it? But it's your body telling you, I need some food. I need to eat something. And when you don't honor that hunger, that hunger is caused by our hormone called ghrelin, is the hunger hormone. You can just think of it as a hunger hormone. And so when you're not eating, that increases. And what that hormone actually does is it slows down your metabolism too. So if we're constantly not honoring that hunger, and when our hunger hormone tells us that it wants to eat, then it's just going to slow down our metabolism even more. And that can actually cause that weight gain too, because it's slowing down everything that it's doing, regardless of what food you're eating. And so if you're eating when you're actually physically hungry, and honoring that hunger, then your ghrelin goes down and your metabolism then can go back up, because your body's like, oh, I'm getting food again. Okay, I can keep running. Just like when a car is about to run out of gas and you just can tell that it's not quite working the right way it should. That's kind of like us. We can kind of tell, like, your body's like just kind of running on fumes at that point. So hopefully that helps. But I would, when you're hungry, go ahead and eat, because that will actually help just with that weight loss or the maintenance of it. Great question. Any other questions from you guys? And no
Is there any truth to never snack after 7 o'clock at night?
Great question. Yeah. So that's kind of like the intermittent fasting, or you shouldn't eat an hour before bed, or those kind of things. So again, I think it's more important to listen internally of, okay, I'm hungry at 7 o'clock at night or 7:03. I should go ahead and honor that hunger, because I'm going to wake up hungry in the middle of the night, or I'm going to be ravenous by the time I wake up in the morning. And knowing your body, like, it would be more beneficial to eat like maybe some protein or something in order to help keep you satisfied through the night, rather than waking up and having that blood sugar dip down too low. There is some, like, when late at night, your body is not working as much on the stuff, like in your stomach, your GI system, it slows down a little bit. And so maybe if for you, like, going to bed right after eating, that can cause some heartburn sometimes for people, because it is in your stomach and it's easier to come up a little bit and get into your esophagus. Or it might just be, it's not going to be digested as quickly. And it's not just going to be sitting there all night, but it's not going to be digested nearly as fast as when we're in the morning. Our body is much more efficient and fast. And then over the course of the day, it slows down a little bit. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't eat anything at 8 o'clock at night. So great question. Anybody else? You've had some good questions, guys. All right. I think that might be it. And if you do have any questions that come to mind, again, my email is always open. It's there for you. And would love to hear too of any questions that you have. And it's good to see some of you. I know from real briefly, I have a cooking class that I've normally done, and it's been so long. And so I saw like Jill briefly, and Carol, and Richard. So good to see all of my cooking class people too. So, but that is all. And before you go, I hope you have a happy holiday, and just enjoy your food, but be mindful while eating it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kara.
You are welcome.
Bye,
Happy
everybody.
holidays.
Happy
Happy holidays.
holidays.
Bye.
Those healthy
Bye.
snacks in your fridge and your pantry. Have a good holiday, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.